Beyond time. It has become apparent that the image and concept of time always contain several pairs of opposite, or even triads. In China, we have a timeless world order, a cyclical order of time, and a linear historical idea of time. In India, Brahma is time and not time. The Maya denote kin, time, by an image with the static element of a flash and the flowing element, the sun arrows. The Aztecs recognized the cyclical time and the linear historical time of the five suns. Plato's system contains the timeless world of ideas, a cyclical eon, time, and the timeline of the transient world. The ancient Persians believed in two Zervan gods, infinite time and time of long duration, Ionic time. In his excellent presentation of the various philosophies of time, G.J. Whitrow has shown that fundamentally some strive to eliminate time, while others see it as something really existing. Time is considered life and death, good and evil. On this and on other arguments, J.T. Fraser bases his definition of time as a conflict. I myself would rather apply the definition of God by Nicholas of Cruz at the time. It is a coincidence of opposites. The primary contrast here is the complementary contrast of time and non-time. Eastern wisdom teachers have made particular effort to overcome time. For example, in many forms of yoga, the yogi, however, does not do this in a single leap. Through breathing exercises, he first tries to overcome ordinary time and releases karmic personal inheritance. Then he breathes in harmony with the rhythm of great cosmic time. His inhalation corresponds to the path of the sun, his exhalation to that of the moon. Thus, the yogi lives in cosmic time and nevertheless continues to live in ordinary time as well. Only then does he attempt to merge these two rhythms into one and thereby completely transcend the cosmos and all its contradictions. Like emerging from an eggshell, he breaks out of the macrocosm and transcends the world of chance and time. The ultimate foundation of reality into which he breaks through is both time and eternity. What he must overcome is the false notion that nothing further exists beyond ordinary time. Similar ideas can be found in Taoist esoteric teachings and Zen Buddhism. The Lankavatara Sutra, for example, states, "Why do all things neither disappear nor appear? This is because they are characterized by masks of a particular and universal nature. But these appearing and disappearing masks neither appear nor disappear. Why are all things permanent? Although they take on form, they do not really take on form. In reality, nothing is born and nothing vanishes. Being and non-being, between these limits the mind moves. When the field disappears, the mind ceases to act. When an object world is no longer perceived, there is no longer any disappearance or non-being. Only something absolute remains, which, as suchness, forms the realm that belongs to the wise." In the treatise of Zheng Chao, this Buddhist teaching is formulated even more extensively with regard to time. When the sutras assert that things pass away, they mean this with a reservation, for they wish to contradict people's beliefs in permanence. When they say that things last, they also say this with a reservation, in order to express their disapproval of what people consider passing away. Their words may appear contradictory, but not their intention. For the wise, duration does not mean that one falls behind, while the wheel of time or karma moves on. Passing away does not mean escaping from the wheel. People who search in vain for past events in present times think they know that things do not last. I, who search in vain for present events in ancient times, know that things do last. Buddha is therefore like emptiness. He neither appears nor passes away. He emerges at the right moment, but has no fixed place among things. The story of the death of the great Zen master Ma best illustrates how one can live simultaneously in ordinary and Aeonic time and eternity. As he approached the end of his life and lay gravely ill in his bed, The abbot of the monastery visited him and asked, respectively, "How was your condition, Reverend, in recent days?" Ma replied, "A Buddha with the sun face, and Buddha with the moon face." As Willem Gundert explains, these words allude to the third of the Buddha name sutras, which states that the lifespan of the Buddha with the moon face lasts 1 day and 1 night, while that of the Buddha with the sun face lasts over 1,800 years. But both Buddhas are only facets of the Great One. After a day and a night, Ma died. His moon face, the mortal part, lasted only that long, but another part, the archetypal core of his being, lived much longer. And beyond that, there exists an eternal element about which Ma did not speak, because it is inevitable. Ineffable. One could, referring back to what has been said before, illustrate the problem of time and non-time in the following way. That is, one could compare time to a turning wheel. The ordinary time in which the self lives would be the outermost ring, moving the fastest. The next ring inward would be the increasingly slower Nonian time towards the center, for example, that of the idea of the Platonic year or the Aztec suns, a time of infinitely long duration than our ordinary one. The last ring inwards illustrates the Illud Tempus, Iliad, which lies on the knife edge between time and non-time, in the retimely moment of creation. It lies directly between ineffable eternity and the beginnings of Dunyan time, the slowly moving archetypal life, and finally in the middle there is the void, the stationary center of the wheel, which remains outside of movement and time. This would be, for example, the Chinese Tao, which exists beyond the world rhythms of Yang and Yin. There was a being incomprehensibly perfect. It came into being before heaven and earth appeared. How calm, how empty. It was entirely for itself and without change, everywhere sufficient, yet its existence was never threatened. It is completely empty and still. At the moment of attaining the state of utter emptiness and remaining in the state of state of stillness, this return to the origin signifies inner peace. The Tao implies eternity. Even the passing away of the physical then signifies no danger. Western mystics also know of a step by which time is completely overcome, the mystical union with the timeless deity. One of their most prominent representatives, Meister Eckhart, writes, St. Paul says, "When the time was fulfilled, God sent his Son. Where time no longer exists, there is the fulfillment of time. This much is certain. All time must be gone where this birth of God in the soul is to begin, for there is nothing that hinders it so much as time and creatures. No doubt time in essence has nothing to do with either, God or the soul. If the soul were to be touched by time, it would not be a soul, and if God to be touched by time, he would not be God. But assuming that time had anything to do with the soul, then God would never be born within it. For that to happen, all time must have fallen away, or the soul must have become detached from time with its desires and strivings, and whoever possessed the art and the power to compress time and everything that has happened in the 6,000 years, and will happen until the end, into the present now, that would be the more true fulfillment of time. That is now of eternity, where the soul perceives all things in God as new, fresh, and present. From the timeless God flows the stream of grace, which generates this omnipresent now. Thus, for Meister Eckhart, God is simultaneously an eternal stillness and an eternal flow. In classical China, the dragon symbolizes the creative dynamism of the universe. The masculine yang principle, which operates in the invisible world, with spirit and time as its domain, the feminine yin operates in matter and space. Yang creates the beginning, yin the completion. At the center is the pearl of the primordial beginning, from which everything emerges. The purpose of time is to allow stages of becoming to emerge in a clear sequence. Heaven, or yang, is a constant, powerful rhythm that ensures everything happens in the synchronous time, and this, from the point of view of the deity, represents destiny. Oceanus flows as a great river in a ring around the disk of the earth. He is the world soul and the creator of all things, an embodiment of time, Chronos. He is also the god Ein, who covers the changes in the world, the mystical round element, or Omega. Omega. In late antiquity, he symbolizes the lifespan of the individual, a long period of time, of eternity, or eternity. He was also depicted as a serpent biting its own tail, encircling the firmament as the sun's path, and carrying the signs of the zodiac on its back. As the boundary of the world, Oceanus embodies the law of fate. Since time was experienced as a stream of inner and clean events, it was symbolized in antiquity as a river god. River gods were considered male figures. They often appeared headless or as a bull because they were dynamic forces. Ariadne was the son of Oceanus Cronus, time, and the sea goddess Tethys. According to Virgil, he sprang from Elysium, the timeless land of bliss. Even in the dreams of modern people, time is often symbolized by a flow. Many instruments for measuring time use the flow of a substance for their purpose, such as the water clock or the hourglass. Before God, in the Judeo-Christian myth, created the ailing world, he conceived in his mind a model in which the archetypes, as the seeds of all things, exist simultaneously in one world. This model is the timeless unus mundus, the one world. In the image above, or rather to the side, God sits upon his spherical model. Only afterward did he create the real world, right? With the sun and the moon, that is day and night, time began. In Judeo-Christianity, this is therefore not cyclical, but reveals its meaning in the irreversible direction of God's relationship to humanity and their redemption. At the center is the pearl of the primordial beginning, the seed of the universe. In its primordial unity, the Tai Chi, the ridge beam, is formed, dividing the unity into the two fundamental rhythms of the cosmos, into Yang, light, warmth, hardness, expansion, masculinity, and Yin, shadow, cold, softness, condensation, femininity. These two principles bring about a change, for reversal is the movement of the Tao. The time-bound action of these two rhythms creates all phenomena. The bird, a phoenix, belongs to Khun, the maternal; the earth, the receptive; the clouds to Qian, the sky; the dragon, the creator. In the four corners stand four of the 8 Kua, or world principles. Above, left and right, Qian and Kun; below, left and right, Teo, the cheerful one; the lake and the sun, the gentle one; the wind, embroidered ceremonial robe of the Qing dynasty, China, 18th century. God creates the firmament and the planetary orbits in the form of a sphere. For he himself is a sphere, whose periphery is nowhere, and whose center is free. Only with the celestial bodies did time appear, yet God's hand can always intervene in its course. Through miracles and through his plan of salvation, he gives time an irreversible direction. In this view, time has a clear beginning and an end. Creation of the stars, north portal of Freiburg Cathedral, Germany, 13th century. Although time has already existed in paradise, it did not yet begin with it, its transience and death. Only through the fall and the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden did death enter the world. Only when humankind developed consciousness, and it will be like God, knowing good and evil, did death become something tangible. In non-Christian religions, it is often not an hour, but an error that brings death into the world. In African myths, for example, an animal misinterprets the divine message, which was meant to teach humankind how to change its skin like a snake, and thus perish eternally. Expulsion from paradise. In ancient Egypt, the sun god Re and the Lord is the Lord of time, marking its marks as he travels in his boat across the upper and lower heavens. At each hour he assumes a different form. As a result, time has qualitatively different phases and appears as an eternal circular procession of archetypes. In the West, time was seen as a snake, in the Far East as a dragon. In Central America, it is symbolized by a snake with two heads, one of which represents life, the other death, while in China the interplay of opposites was considered harmonious. The ancient Mexicans' conception of time was rather tragic. The heads faces in opposite directions. Time brings joy and happiness, life, but also misfortune and death, and the whole world is drifting toward an inevitable final catastrophe. In the late Mithraic mysteries, the god Ion is depicted with a key and/or staff as the gatekeeper to the afterlife. He symbolizes time, including the long period of time and eternity. His lion's head points to the hot summer solstice, the snake to the cold, wet winter. Often the snake or its body bears the signs of the zodiac. In prayers he is invoked as the all-encompassing world soul or as the light and dark world spirit that governs everything. For the initiate, he opens the gates to the afterlife as Lord of Light. The ancient Greeks, Romans, and Slavs worshipped deities who personified numinous magical moments in time. One of these is Nike, Victory, the daughter of underworld river Styx. She is that mysterious moment when a combat game or battle turns towards victory. She is depicted as swift and agile because she appears or disappears suddenly. The image of the Nike bestowing the victory wreath upon the hero was transformed on early Christian sarcophagi into the image of an angel bringing the deceased their victory wreath of overcoming death. Tibetan depiction of Samsara, the wheel of rebirth. The three animals in the center are a pig, a rooster, and a snake, which represent desire, greed, and ignorance, and keep the wheel turning. The figures on the right are falling into theta, understood as the wheel of time, which carries some people up to happiness and success and plunges others into misery. Sometimes fortune wears a blindfold over her eyes because her choice of the fortunate and unfortunate is morally blind. Another momentary goddess of the West is Fortuna, the goddess of fortune and misfortune. She was originally one of the ancient mother goddesses, Matrone, from pre-Roman times and had the wheel as an attribute. It was later understood as the wheel of time, which carries some people up to happiness and success and plunges others into misery. Sometimes Fortuna wears a blindfold over her eyes because her choice of the fortunate and the unfortunate is morally blind. Before they became celestial constellations, zodiac symbols were earthly tribal gods. In Mesopotamia, the Babylonians, 6th century BC, projected these images onto the star groups in the sky and began to calculate their rising and setting precisely. The zodiac is the path of the sun. Its symbols divide time into qualitatively different phases. Everything that lives in such a period, including humans, participate in the quality of that time. Towards the center where the Earth is located, the planets revolve and their positions form the horoscope of a moment, such as the birth of a person. In astrology, time is not an empty frame of reference but possesses qualitative aspects that it bestows upon all earthly life. Our calendar, from the Roman division of time into calendae, is based on the daily rhythm of the sun. It serves to keep the beginning of each year, 365.25 days, at the same distance from the solstice and equinoxes. In the late Roman Republic, the accumulating inaccuracies had led to political conflicts because the terms of office was no longer certain. Therefore, in 46 BC, Julius Caesar reformed the calendar by introducing an extra day every fourth year. However, this was still not entirely accurate. In 1582 AD, Pope Gregory XIII issued a decree. Therefore, he restored the equinoxes to their rightful place in the calendar by removing 10 days and decreed that the leap day should be omitted at every century turn, except for those of 400 or multiples of 400. This was hailed as the restoration of order instead of chaos in the world. Calendar reforms in ancient China also had predominantly socio-ethical aspect. According to current calculations, the Gregorian calendar still has an annual inaccuracy of approximately 19.45 seconds, or 1 day in about 4,442 years.